Anyone who's watched the social media knows the story of Mark Zuckerberg robbing the idea for Facebook from the Winklevoss twins. And these stories have created this narrative that every founder should be incredibly worried about other people robbing their startup idea. And one of my subscribers recently sent me a message asking me how they could protect their startup idea. So I thought I'd shoot a short video to demystify everything around protecting your ideas and how the industry sees this in the startup world, and also steps that you can take to protect your startup idea today. Let's go. What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Christian Peverelli. I am the co-founder of WeAreNoCode. We teach founders how to build startup companies without coding and without any technical skills. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. You'll get lots of tricks and tips on how to build your startup. Now let's talk about protecting your idea. Now, if you're like most founders, you have this fear that people are going to rob your idea from you and build an entire business around it, and you're not gonna be able to capitalize from it at all. Now, the first thing I would say is that in my experience training hundreds of founders at an accelerator, this is usually not really the case, right? This is not something that happens so often. And for every story we hear where someone was robbed from their idea, there's probably 10 or 20 other founders who didn't get robbed from their idea. And this has really transpired in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. If you go up to a venture capital investor, or if you go up to an accelerator program, they most likely will not be willing to sign an NDA. Why? Because A, they do not hold up in court, and they're way less interested in investing in ideas as they are investing in the people who are running them, the size of the market, and the traction that they've been able to show to date. And for those of you who watch Shark Tank, you've probably seen Mark Cuban ask about whether or not an individual has a patent for this shirt that also has a straw in it. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, probably not. Can we cut that out? Okay, Christian, this is a serious topic. When we think about protecting our ideas, the first thing that comes to mind is patents, right? But there are also other ways to protect your idea. If we think of Coca-Cola, they essentially had a secret recipe, right? So essentially they had trade secrets that they would not share with other individuals, and to copy that recipe and get it exact, you can ask Pepsi, it's not that easy. Then you have NDAs, or non-disclosure agreements, that are essentially short agreements that say that you are not going to disclose anything that that person tells you. But potentially the best way to protect your idea is through execution. And yes, we've all heard that quote. Ideas don't matter, it's all about the execution. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about patents. So patents are a way for you to protect proprietary IP, so intellectual property, behind a specific thing. And that can be a different thing, right? It could be a specific product. It could be a specific process. Under the current US patent laws, it is said that you cannot actually claim a patent in software itself. So for example, if you said that your software did X, Y, and Z, that's not necessarily something that can be protected in a court of law. However, it can be linked to a system or a process used within the software. So you can protect specific features, processes, brands, design, instead of just the source code or the code behind what you've built. And so you can't really protect the code. In fact, the most common way to build software today is leveraging open source, which means that you can grab other people's code and you can integrate it. You don't have to build every single piece individually. Instead, you can stitch together different pieces. And it's very similar with this thing called nocode, which allows you to build software in visual designers. And so although you could technically copyright every single line of code, the reality is that someone would just have to change one little part of the code base and it would not be protectable in court. So now let's talk about a couple examples that were granted as patents to these big companies. So although Airbnb was not able to file for booking secondhand properties online, they were able to file a patent for the automated termination of the availability of a listing. So they created a system or a model that could essentially predict whether or not that would be available or not. And they actually draw out the entire model, the process that they use, and they were able to file a patent successfully for that. Coinbase, which is a place where you can exchange cryptocurrency, was able to file a patent successfully around instant exchange of Bitcoin. So it was essentially a system that allowed Bitcoin owners to transact Bitcoin or send it to an email address without having to get a miner paid, which means that there were no miner fees behind it. And DoorDash wasn't able to get a patent that would not allow Uber Eats to go into the market. However, they were able to file for automated last mile delivery. And so if you're going to file a patent, make sure you know exactly what that patent is for and understand that you won't be able to do that around the code base, but you can do it around certain systems and processes. Now, patents don't necessarily protect your startup idea. There are many workarounds that can be done to be able to circumvent any patent. And in fact, claiming prior art related to what you've built is usually an argument that's used in court to deny you from that patent or to get away from any responsibilities in terms of an infringement. And that leads us to something that people don't really talk about. One thing is having a patent, but another thing is being able to enforce it, right? If you don't have a lot of money to be able to enforce it, if someone comes in and claims that they have that patent, or they are infringing on your patent and you need to defend your patent. Not to mention the fact that buying the patent and being able to get that patent to be valid in every single country and in specific categories as well can be very expensive and time consuming. So unless you have something very, very specific that has to be patented, I would highly recommend that people stay away from patents completely, specifically in the software industry where it is much more difficult to protect them in court. Now, if you do have a patent, one of the ways to protect yourself, and this comes directly from Stephen Key, who himself is an inventor and has been able to license many of his inventions to larger companies. He says, and this kind of brings us back to the topic of the ability to actually take action with an idea, not just patent it, is this idea of distribution. So one strategy that he found that was very effective was all around distribution. If you're able to get your product in the hands of thousands, millions of people, then being first to market is much more important than having a patent behind what you're building. And so if you do have a patent, make sure that you're partnering up with larger companies who have a distribution network that can allow you to get to market in front of as many people as possible. In addition, I think that a lot of people are scared of other people robbing their ideas, but let's really break it down. Usually large companies like Google don't really have the time to copy your idea unless it's absolutely mission critical. In most cases, their strategy is to wait for there to be a winner in a specific category and to actually buy those people out, right? When you look at Facebook, when you look at Google, when you look at Microsoft, they're really in the acquisition game. They're really in a game where they say, hey, I'm just gonna acquire startups because we're looking to hire the team internally. We're looking to acquire a proven software in the market and a user base of people around it. So the likelihood that they're gonna drop all their plans to build your idea is very unlikely. Now, if I take a couple steps back, I always recommend to founders to take it one step further than just the idea or the patent. You have to really bring this thing to market, prove that there's demand behind it, and don't waste too much time being scared of whether or not someone's gonna rob it. In fact, the more people you tell about your startup, the more likely you're gonna be able to get the resources, the employees, the investment, et cetera, to be able to pull this startup off, or this idea, or this product. So although you're probably really wanting to go off there and spend a bunch of money on patents and patent lawyers and all that, that is most likely gonna be a huge waste of your time early on when you may or may not have product market fit already, which means that if you don't already have customers around it, going and protecting this idea may be a waste of time. Why? Because this is gonna completely change as you figure out the market realities that are linked to the idea or to the product that you've built. And so sometimes the best thing to do is actually to go out there to test the market with your idea, to start adapting your idea to what the market needs are. You can do this leveraging NoCode. We have a full program that teaches you how to do it. And so the best way to protect your idea from other people robbing it is to actually build a business out of it, launch it, be first in the market, or at least to be able to get the patent and then commercialize it with a larger partner. And just from personal experience, I've seen thousands of founders wasting tens of thousands of dollars on all of these processes just because they're scared that someone's gonna rob it. Go out there, build it, launch it, monetize it, and grow. That's the best approach. Hope this video was useful. Here are a couple more, and I'll see you in the next video. Come back to Startup Studio soon. Take care.